Hello and welcome to part 2 of my greeting series. This will be quite a bit more advanced than the first lesson, and there'll be quite a lot more inside it. So if you have not yet learned everything in the first part, I highly recommend watching that video first, as this is designed as something to happen after you've memorized everything in the first video. So if you don't know everything from the first video yet, please pause this for now, go rewatch that and learn everything there confidently before you watch this, to prevent getting overwhelmed with a bombardment of information. This is more of a supplementary lesson to go on top of the first one. And this one will be quite a bit more complicated, but we'll go more in depth into different Japanese greetings. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, this word has a lot of different meanings, as you can see. And it's a verb, which is essentially used to indicate that you feel bad about something. So, for example, if you bumped into someone, you could say, sumimasen, to indicate that you feel bad about bumping into them. If you sneezed, you could say, sumimasen, to communicate that you feel bad about sneezing and disrupting the space. Or if someone went out of their way to give something to you, like say you dropped something on the ground, for example, and they went out of their way to give it back to you, you could say, sumimasen, to communicate that you feel bad about the trouble. So that's sort of the usage or connotation of sumimasen, I should say. So it's very broad in Japanese, and it has a lot of different usages. You'll encounter a bunch of different usages of this word a lot. And it has a lot of translations, as you can see, because it doesn't map cleanly to a single English phrase. So, yeah. The one on the left is the official version, if you will. Sumimasen. That's the pitch contour, with the mimase being higher pitch. And the one on the right is a colloquial variant of the same phrase. Sumimasen. It sounds quite close, right? So yeah, it's just an informal or less formal equivalent. So you can use both of these are very common phrases. There are more ways of expressing this because there are more conjugations of this verb. Both of these are relatively polite phrases in their current form. There are ways to make it rougher, but to avoid overcomplication, I won't talk about those here in this video. It's just worth bearing in mind that since this is a verb and Japanese verbs have many potential conjugations, there are more ways of saying this phrase, essentially. But don't worry about it for now. So moving on. Sorry. So these are more dedicated ways of expressing sorry in Japanese. And as you can see, I've written 3 versions, essentially. So the two on the left, gomen and gomenne, are very informal. They're casual. And gomennasai is higher up on the politeness scale. So you might recognize that nasai from oyasumi nasai. It's important to note that the pitch accent you might have noticed is different, because usually in oyasumi nasai, the pitch stays high for the entire second duration of the word. Like oyasumi nasai, that final i is high. But here in gomen nasai, the i drops in pitch compared to oyasumi nasai. So that's just a note worth paying attention to if you want to pronounce these correctly. Between gomen and gomenne, the reason I included it as a variant is because gomen sounds very blunt, and it sounds very, how should I put it, like direct. It sounds honest, like you're genuinely sorry, whereas gomenne sounds more lighthearted, a bit like saying, oh, sorry mate, sorry bro, in English, like that. So it depends on sort of the nuance or the type of feeling that you want to give off when you apologize. But it's worth noting that, yeah, basically in casual speech, gomen, gomen ne are both very common. And if you want to be more polite and express that you're really, truly sorry in a more polite situation, you can say gomen nasai as well. Okay, so moving on. This is another very useful phrase, and it's also extremely casual. This is not something that you should say in polite situations when talking to someone you don't know, etc. This is a very casual phrase, something that you'd use around friends or people you're extremely close to. It has a couple different usages. The most common one is thanks, doumo, with the do high pitch and the umo lower pitch. So there's a drop after the do. Doumo, okay? And it's a contraction. So you might remember from part 1, I talked about arigato and arigatou gozaimasu. So I didn't mention it there for the purposes of simplicity, but doumo can also be added to the start. So you can say doumo arigato or doumo arigatou gozaimasu. It's very long, right? So that's why I didn't include it in part 1. But essentially this doumo it's a contracted version of those phrases. So doumo it's a very casual way to say thanks, like THX in English in terms of casual vibes. So it's it's very casual. Maybe if someone passed something to you, you could just say doumo, or something like that. And it can also be used as a light greeting, which is why I mentioned hi here, because hi in English is also very casual compared to hello. So I felt it was more equivalent to saying hi. Like if you pass someone in the hall, you could say doumo, just as a light acknowledgement or a greeting, I suppose. So both of those are common usages of this word. I would advise noting that, so as I mentioned, doumo arigato and doumo arigatou gozaimasu, they do both exist, but they are rarer compared to just saying arigato or arigatou gozaimasu by themselves. And saying doumo arigato can actually be a non-native marker because that tends to get overused by non-native speakers. So I would recommend noting that those exist, but not particularly using them very much. Just something to be aware of. So moving on. So in part 1, I also mentioned that sayonara had a connotation of finality and was quite formal. So here I wanted to talk about more informal ways of expressing goodbye in Japanese. So there's a couple of ways to do this, and there's even more ways than are listed on this page, but these are the most common, more informal ways of saying bye casually. So, ja, that's one way of saying it, although it's very flippant. Not the most friendly way of expressing it. So that ne at the end makes it friendlier, which is why it's what I'd recommend. Ja ne, with the ja, first ja being higher pitch. Ja ne, that's very common, and I'd recommend using that version more. I just put ja as an alternative to note that that is something that people use. But as a guideline, as a beginner, I would recommend using ja ne. And an alternative, which is also very common, is mata ne, which literally translated means again, as in see you again. But so you can use both of these to say bye or see you in a more casual context, like ja ne, mata ne. And you can even combine these phrases, as you can see at the bottom, as ja mata ne or ja mata, which is less common, but also an acceptable variant. So all of these phrases exist. Of course, I would recommend sticking to ja ne or mata ne for the time being as a beginner, because those are probably the most commonly used variants of bye or see you. But it's worth noting that all of these exist. So if you'd like to go more in depth, I would recommend learning all of these. Moving on. So I didn't include the pitch here because, to be honest, there's not much of a... it's not really... it doesn't really have a standard pitch because it's technically the same word repeated twice. So this is from a word I haven't taught you yet, but the Japanese word for no. Don't worry about that for now because this is just about greetings. But basically, it's kind of like saying no, which sounds a little bit strange in English, but I suppose and something to compare it to, for example, maybe in Australian English, how people say, nah, mate, it's fine. Something like that. It's sort of similar to that in terms of how it's used. And similarly, this can also take phrases afterwards like, no, it's fine, which would be, it's fine would be daijoubu desu in Japanese, but you don't need to worry about that. If you just want to say you're welcome in a less textbooky way, you can just say yeah, like that. Yeah. That's how I say it, yeah. But even if you said yeah or yeah, like the pitch doesn't matter as much, to be honest, because that's not the point. So just say yeah like that, and you can use that as a you're welcome. It's also much easier to remember than do itashimashite. So yeah, please use this. It sounds more conversational and a lot more natural in many contexts than do itashimashite. So moving on. So these are greetings that you'd but hear on the phone. So Japanese has its own unique greetings in more phone-related contexts, unlike English. So this is unique to Japanese compared to English. So when you're on the phone and you want to greet someone on the phone, you don't say konnichiwa or something like that because that's more of a real-life phrase. Phones have their own unique phrase, which is moshimoshi. Moshimoshi, that's what you say when you greet someone on the phone. And as you can see, I wrote that the first mo is highest pitch, like high pitch, and then the rest is low pitch. Moshimoshi. But it's worth noting that because it's regularly used as a question, similar to hello in English when talking on the phone, in Japanese, questions are often marked with a slight rise in intonation at the very end. So it's worth noting that you'll regularly hear moshimoshi said as like moshimoshi with that yi on the end to sort of imply a question mark, if you will. So you'll hear both pronunciations of this very commonly. But yeah, it's worth noting that this is a very common greeting when talking to people on the phone. And finally, so what if you want to say bye on the phone? What if you wanted to hang up, but you didn't know what to say when you wanted to hang up? This is that phrase. And this phrase is very versatile. So it's used in a lot more contexts than this. And I'll talk more about contexts where this phrase would be used later. So this is technically a verb. Shitsurei means rude in Japanese. So to literally translate this, it means I'll do something rude. But in this context, it's used to indicate that you're about to hang up. So you can use it a little bit like bye, even though that's not literally what it means. So as you can see, the tsu is highest pitch on this word. Shitsurei. So that's how it should be pronounced. Shitsurei shimasu. And you can say that when you're about to go. I think that's everything I had written in this video. So without further ado, thank you for watching.